Yo, what is going on YouTube? It is your boy GZTV. I know I sound a bit nasally. You know, I am congested. Like, officially, I've gotten into that phase of a sickness. But we are here to talk about the 7th episode of the American crime drama television miniseries, The Penguin. Again, a spin-off from the film, The Batman. And this time, we have it written by co-executive producer Vladimir Kvetko and directed by Kevin Bray. So pretty crazy stuff happens in this episode. Again, some more origin stuff, some more backstory stuff. And that's always been appreciated with this show. We get that here for Oz's character. It's really cool. Let's get into it though. Again, just wanted to put out a spoiler warning because we talk about exactly what happens in every single episode of every single TV show I watch on this channel. You know, I don't really do it much for movies, but when it comes to TV shows and it goes episode by episode and you guys want to follow along, I think we should kind of briefly describe what happens. So, in a flashback, a young Oz lives with his mother Frances and his brothers Jack and Benny and resents the affection his siblings receive from Frances. He feels like he's kind of left out. He's kind of the, the outcast here of this family. You know, with most DC characters, we get this villain origin story, and that is exactly what this show tries to do here, and I think they do a pretty good job at it. While walking in the streets, they decide to go out on the town while their mom's completing work. The three brothers run into notorious criminal Rex Calabrese, who gives them $50. Now, obviously, in previous episodes, and I'm sure in the comic books, again, I didn't read the comic books, I'm not super well versed with the DC universe. I'm sure Rex Calabrese came up plenty of times. Jack leads his siblings to an abandoned underground railway where they play a game of hide and seek. You know, boys just being boys, siblings being siblings. Jack and Benny hide in an overflow tunnel, which they entered via a ladder that is difficult for the disabled Oz to access, and they know this. They know he has this disability, and they're using that to his advantage. And again, a perfect villain origin story, a perfect reason for why Oz is the way he is. You know, people made fun of him coming up, all this sort of stuff. And yeah, it's like this overflow tunnel where if it floods, water pours into there, so that obviously is their detriment. We will get to that in a second here. So an angry Oz locks Jack and Benny in the overflow tunnel before leaving for his house. He pretty much traps his brothers in there, and obviously previously he tried to paint the story that they got stuck in there or something, but no, he killed his brothers basically, and he tried to have some sympathy for them, and he tries to express that towards Victor, but he's a villain, so how the fuck are we surprised? It was pretty crazy to see that, really, because I didn't know the backstory of the Penguin before. I think that's awesome. So while he and Frances watch Top Hat, which is why the episode's called Top Hat, Jack and Benny call for help to no avail as they drown in the tunnel during a rainstorm. It's kind of fucked up how they portrayed this scene, but it's a pretty evil, gritty show, so it makes sense why they would do such a thing. In present day, at the end of the flashback, Oz arrives at Crown Point, discovering Victor unconscious and Frances gone. Obviously, we saw the cliffhanger from the last episode with Sophia appearing in the apartment and taking action. So upon awakening, Victor informs Oz that Sophia took Frances. Obviously, a little frustrated that Victor couldn't do anything, but at the same time, are you okay? You know, Oz just being somewhat of a good person in a sense. When Sal arrives with his henchmen, Oz forces Victor to flee. Get the fuck out of here. I don't want you to have to deal with this, you know? Sal brutally assaults Oz, but takes him alive so he can face Sophia as well. You know, their plan is to kill Oz eventually, but they want to keep him alive for this confrontation. Sophia has taken Frances to her mansion, but Frances is not frightened of her, telling her that Oz will kill her before suffering another dementia episode. She goes into this mass hysteria. All of a sudden, she just starts acting crazy, you know? Rush informs Sophia that the police are looking to question Gia at her orphanage, as she is the only witness in the Falcones' death. So that's starting to kind of turn around and smack Sophia in the face. So now her kind of mission for the rest of the episode is to deal with that, and obviously she has the Oz situation. A lot of things are kind of stacking up against her as well, as things are stacking up against Oz too. Sal forces Oz to take him to his base of operations, declaring that the Bliss business now belongs to him, you know, Sophia, and they're gonna take it over. Oz provokes Sal towards violence, seizing the opportunity for his men to turn off the lights and commence a shootout. So now it is all-out war between Oz's men and the Maronis. Oz gains the upper hand during a brawl with Sal, but Sal suddenly dies of a heart attack, which is kind of fucking insane. Oz is disappointed in not being able to personally kill his rival, which again is just the villain in him, just the evil part in him, not in this ego that he has. So he just dies out of nowhere. He's like, what the fuck? It's kind of funny, really, but Sophia visits Gia at the orphanage, where Gia reveals she found a gas mask in her purse, wondering if she killed her family. You know, she's kind of putting the pieces together. She's like, wait a fucking second, why is there a gas mask in here, you know? Sophia claims her innocence, only to discover that Gia has been harming herself during her stay. You know, she's been kind of going fucking insane without her parents, and she might be a little too young to have these sort of feelings, but I guess, you know, you lose your parents that young, you're gonna go through some stuff. Sophia tells Gia that her family were bad people who deserved to die, and that she deserves better than the Falcones' family, so she pretty much right then and there admits that she killed those people. What is Gia gonna do about it though? Sophia is a pretty powerful woman at this point. Oz calls Sophia to inform her of Sal's death and offers her the Maroney's criminal empire as well as his Bliss operation in exchange for Frances' safe return. Sounds like a fair trade. They obviously have this whole confrontation. At the end, we'll get to that. Sophia returns to the mansion and admits to Rush that she has become disillusioned about her position after seeing the pain she has caused Gia, so she accepted Oz's deal. She's feeling some guilt. She's starting to feel like a normal fucking human being, and like, wow, I really caused this girl some pain by killing her parents. It's kind of fucked up, but however, Rush convinces her to follow through on her desire to see Oz suffer. He's supposed to be a therapist, and it's kind of ironic because he worked in like the psych ward and he was trying to help people better themselves, but now for like him liking her, it's like, you know what, go do whatever the fuck you want, go do what you like at this fucking point. Sophia sends a van inside Oz's base of operations, calling him from another part of the city to tell him she has sent him a gift. Is Oz really dumb enough to think that she would have drove in there like that? I don't know. Oz, thinking Francis's body is in the car, instead discovers explosives and hides in the tunnel while the bombs detonate, destroying the base, killing his entire crew. It's kind of a full circle moment. He hides in that tunnel that he killed his brothers in. It's kind of crazy. This show does a lot with like irony and stuff, in this episode especially, and I think that is very cool of them. Everyone else thought it was Francis's body too. Like, believe me, when I was watching this, I thought the same thing. So, in another flashback, we get a flashback to end the episode. A young Oz and Francis go to a jazz club where Francis asks Oz to become successful enough to finally provide her a happy life, which Oz promises. And that's kind of what Francis was referencing throughout the episodes. And then we cut back to, back in present day, Oz discovers from the explosion and resurfaces, only to be knocked out by Detective Marcus Wise, who's a pretty big part of the DC universe. So that's kind of where we end things off. Again, this is a pretty dope episode. I think this is a slight improvement. I'm not going to give it a B. I'll still probably get it a B-, but from the last couple of episodes, I think this was definitely an improvement. I enjoyed this, it's pretty good. The Penguin's penultimate episode continues a trend of late in the game pacing issues. There are some weird pacing issues, as things end up relatively in the same place they were at the beginning of Top Hat. There are moments near the end that feel like they're driving towards an exciting finale, but the attempt to deepen Oz's relationship with his mother through a flashback to the day Jack and Benny died is superficial. It's another episode that feels full of unnecessary but less than satisfying details. Obviously, to an extent, I appreciate, the backstory and them kind of going through that, but it gets to a point where it's kind of like coming to the detriment of moving the story forward, and the show hasn't done the greatest at balancing those two things. It's still a good episode. Excepting flashbacks, the Penguin has kept Oz and Sophia separated from each other for 4 full episodes at this point, after making a strong case for them being the most electric pairing on the show. Farrell, more than anybody else in this series, feeds off his scene partners, so the thought of these two facing off once and for all, possibly with Francis on the sidelines to rile things up, is genuinely thrilling. Francis is kind of a pawn at this point between these two characters, and I think that's going to be a really cool thing to see to kind of close the show out for now. If Sophia the Hangman's horror origin story is episode 4, Santani made the case for the Penguin as an essential Gotham City tale, Top Hat will go down as the chapter that kind of sealed the deal. Penguin is still out here slinging that Jersey accent and cozying up to Ma as if he isn't 40 years older now. There were some weird dynamics, I will say, between Oz and his mom. Like, why are you cuddled up with your mom on the couch watching TV? I know he was a kid, I know it's kind of like motherly love, but I never fucking did that as a kid. That's really weird to me. Is it an Italian thing? It could be. Maybe moms are more intimate with their sons and that culture. I don't fucking know. We can't have too much fun though, HBO needs to remind viewers every now and then that the cool gangster we like to hang out with every week is not a good guy. Even at a young age, Oz was bad to the bone. He literally killed his fucking brothers, On a plot level, all of this makes sense, and it's somewhat true to the Penguin's modern comic book origins, apparently. I don't know that too much. But on a thematic level, the flashbacks add nothing. Oz has always been cruel and manipulative. Oz caused his mother's pain. At his core, Oz is just a middle child who wants attention. I mean, that's a normal villain. That's something we kind of expected out of him. Flashbacks don't add anything to that extent. Obviously, there's kind of the revelation that he killed his brothers and that, like, this whole time he's trying to be the sympathetic guy. It is what it is. Top Hat begins by making us believe that the episode may be another flashback, this time about Oz's childhood. While that does take up a good portion of the story, including the flashback towards the end, the rest of the episode is pulse-pounding, stressful, and dreary. Salvatore Maroni's death may have felt a bit too anticlimactic, but that was clearly the intention. They clearly wanted that to happen, like something you didn't expect, maybe. I think that was effective for that reason, I mean, not that we could ever think it would be anything else, but Top Hat definitely shed some brutal light on what made Oz, well, Oz. And Colin Farrell said a while back that by the end of the Penguin we'd end up hating Oz. He wasn't kidding around, and then this episode really kind of puts the cherry on top with that. Though previous episodes like Gold Summon and Homecoming were particularly focused on moving the narrative, this one is different. Here, those threads finally weave themselves together, not just to tie up loose ends, but to dig into their harsher selves. As a good way of putting it, desperate times call for desperate measures. I don't really have much else to say. I think this is a good episode. Obviously it moves the narrative forward a little bit. It doesn't do too much. Obviously they have to kind of build up hype for the finale, and they do to an extent. Now, taking out Salvatore Moroni before the finale, I don't know. I guess he wasn't a major character like at any point, so it's not like we can sit there like, oh man, he died. I'm not like upset that he died. It just seems kind of weird the timing at which he died. Like maybe if they killed him a little while ago, it would have made a little more sense. But it's just kind of weird to kind of hype this whole thing up with him and Sophia just for like an episode or two later to just boom. And again, maybe that's how the comic books happened. I don't know if this is like their pure adaptation or if they're using the comic books. Again, it's kind of risky territory to kind of critique the show and their plot choices when you literally have a comic book, when you literally have multiple adaptations of this character. With that being said, I think I am out, guys. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I'm going to try to edit this video as quick as possible. I think in about 4 or 5 hours my family's coming over. I'll have it done by then. Maybe I'll start watching Deadpool 2. Hopefully by the end of the weekend we can get both of those Deadpool movies watched, you know, with the Wolverine one as well, to kind of close out that franchise, because that's a franchise I've wanted to return to for a while, and it's going to be cool to be able to do that. Obviously NBA recaps are going to keep coming, NFL recaps every single week, even for the playoffs are coming, all that sort of stuff. So just expect that. I'm out, guys.